I have told you before, and I will keep saying it until someone in the Department of the Interior finally listens to the truth. Things happen in our national parks that defy every logical explanation known to modern man. We are talking about people with years of wilderness experience and people who are deeply prepared for any situation. They have the latest high-tech equipment strapped to their chests, yet they vanish without a single trace. The woods are a place of immense beauty, but they are also a place of ancient and terrifying secrets hidden in the shadows. I have spent years documenting these cases, and the patterns are becoming impossible for any rational mind to ignore anymore. Something is out there, and it does not follow the laws of physics as we understand them in our daily lives. I am just stating the facts that the authorities refuse to acknowledge or share with the tax-paying public. Today we are digging into a very specific and highly disturbing subset of the missing 411 cases involving electronic anomalies. We are focusing on the total failure of electronic equipment and the phenomenon known as the tech blackout. When your GPS goes dark and your beacon fails, it is often the very last moment of your conscious life. This is not just a simple glitch or a dead battery, but something far more sinister and calculated. Imagine you are deep in the backcountry of the high Sierras, standing on a granite ridge you know like the back of your hand. You are a veteran hiker with a top-tier GPS and a personal locator beacon ready for any emergency. You check your coordinates and the screen shows you exactly where you should be on the topographic map. The sun is shining and you feel completely in control of your mountain environment and your future. Then you step over a small rocky ridge, just a few feet away from your original path, to get a better view. Suddenly, the entire world around you changes in a heartbeat for no apparent reason that you can see. The birds stop chirping and the insects go completely silent as if they are hiding from a massive unseen predator. The wind, which was whipping through the pines just seconds ago, simply vanishes into a heavy and suffocating thin air. You look down at your GPS and your heart skips a beat because the screen is flickering wildly like a dying candle. The signal bar drops to 0 and stays there despite the clear blue sky and lack of overhead cover. You pull out your PLB, the one that is supposed to bring the rescue cavalry in 40 minutes or less. You press the test button with a shaking finger, but there is absolutely no response from the hardware. There are no lights, and there is no reassuring beep coming from the device that was supposed to save your life. It is as if the batteries were sucked dry by some invisible magnetic force in a matter of mere seconds. You are not lost yet, but the technology that connected you to civilization has failed you completely and utterly. This is usually when the something else decides to make its presence known in the absolute deafening silence. Welcome back to the channel and thank you for joining me for this very important and grim investigative update. I am David Paulides, and I am here to tell the stories that the National Park Service desperately ignores. We are looking at the missing 411 phenomenon through the lens of electromagnetic interference and electronic signal suppression. These patterns suggest that these disappearances are not random accidents but calculated events, orchestrated by something unknown. One of the most consistent and baffling profile points in my research is the sudden failure of gear at the moment of disappearance. We are not talking about cheap electronics or old hardware that just reached its natural limit of use. These are military-grade GPS units showing no satellite available while standing in the middle of a vast open field. These are life-saving beacons that fail to transmit even when the weather conditions are absolutely perfect for radio waves. And then, almost like clockwork, the weather in the immediate area begins to turn violent and unpredictable. As soon as the search and rescue teams arrive on site, a massive localized storm rolls in from nowhere. It grounds the helicopters and washes away any scent that the K9 teams might have used to find the victim. If you think that is just a coincidence, then you simply have not been paying attention to these facts. Let us look at a specific case out of Washington State involving a seasoned hiker named Mark who disappeared recently. He was highly intelligent and a tech enthusiast, which fits another one of our specific profile points perfectly. Mark was carrying a top-of-the-line GPS and a dual-frequency emergency beacon for his solo mountain trip. He was on a well-marked trail in the Cascades, a place he had safely hiked dozens of times. His last signal ping did not fade out over time, and it did not move off the established trail. It just stopped dead, as if he had walked straight into a thick wall made of solid lead or radiation. When the search teams finally reached his last known coordinate, they found a very strange and chilling scene waiting. His GPS was sitting right there on a flat rock, perfectly powered on and completely undamaged by the elements. The screen was frozen on a coordinate that simply did not exist anywhere in the local geographical region. It was a ghost location showing him to be thousands of miles out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. How does a device calibrated for the mountains suddenly think it is floating in the deep blue sea? There was no struggle and no tracks leading away from the rock where the device was found. The K9 units were brought in, and these are world-class tracking dogs trained for the toughest mountain terrain. They took one sniff of the area around the GPS, and they immediately refused to work or move forward. These brave animals sat down and tucked their tails between their legs while whimpering in visible and audible fear. That is a major profile point that we see in the most terrifying and unexplained cases. And then the clouds moved in faster than anyone on the ground could have ever anticipated or prepared for. A storm that was not on any weather forecast hammered that ridge for 3 long days and nights. It made any further search operations completely impossible and extremely dangerous for the brave teams involved. Mark was never found, and his disappearance remains a total mystery to the authorities and his family. Now we move across the world to the rugged and unforgiving bush of Victoria in beautiful Australia. We see the exact same patterns emerging in the southern hemisphere under almost identical and strange circumstances. A young man who was fit and experienced was carrying a PLB through a known magnetic anomaly area. His family was expecting a regular check-in, but they received something much more haunting and final. His family received a standard check-in text from his satellite messenger at exactly 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The message said that everything was fine and he was enjoying the stunning view of the valley below. At 2:05 p.m., just 5 minutes later, he triggered his emergency SOS signal for some reason. But the signal that reached the monitoring center was garbled and completely unreadable to the emergency technicians. The emergency center received a packet of data that looked like total digital gibberish to the rescuers on duty. It was corrupted and scrambled as if the radio waves had passed through a massive localized electromagnetic field. By the time the helicopters reached his last camp, they found a scene that chilled them to the bone. His gear was all there, neatly organized inside the tent, but he was nowhere to be found. His shoes were missing, which is another one of those bizarre and frequent details that we see in 411. Why do these people always lose their shoes or leave them behind before they vanish forever into the woods? His PLB was found 10 feet from his tent, lying in the dirt in a state of absolute ruin. It was crushed, but not by a heavy rock or a human foot or an animal. The device had imploded from the inside out as if it had been subjected to intense gravitational pressure. The authorities claimed he became disoriented and wandered off into the bush to die of cold exposure. But they can never explain why his electronics fried and imploded before he supposedly lost his mental faculties. They ignore the hard facts, because the facts point to a power they cannot control. What are the facts telling us when we look at these cases side by side without any official bias? We hear about the zone of silence, where all natural sound is sucked out of the local environment. We see the consistent proximity to large granite formations and moving bodies of water in these national parks. We see the weather acting as a physical shield to cover the tracks of the vanished. If the technology is being suppressed, it means something is interfering with the very frequency of our reality. GPS relies on precise timing, and if time itself is being warped, then the tech will fail. Our devices are built for this dimension, but they cannot handle the physics of another one nearby. This is where the investigation takes a turn into the truly dark and the terrifyingly unknown. I have spent years looking at these cases, and I do not like to speculate without hard evidence. But when you see the same electronic blackout over and over, you have to ask the hard questions. What could cause a high-tech GPS to freeze and a beacon to implode from the inside out? It is as if the laws of our physical world were temporarily suspended by an outside force. There is a disturbing possibility that these specific clusters are locations where our reality is very thin. I am talking about dimensional portals that exist in the deep woods and the high mountain peaks. If a person steps into a thin spot, the electromagnetic interference would be absolutely massive to electronics. It would explain why the GPS drifts to impossible locations like the middle of the Pacific. It would explain why a digital signal gets garbled and twisted into something that sounds like demonic static. It is not that the technology is broken or that the hiker was being careless with gear. It is that the technology is trying to communicate from a place where our physics do not apply. These victims are not just getting lost, they are being pulled right out of our world. Think about the imploded beacon in Australia and the ghost coordinates in the Cascades of Washington State. These are physical signs of a massive energy discharge that our electronics were not built to survive. If you are standing at the edge of a portal, your equipment will always tell you first. The flickering screen is a final warning that you are no longer in a safe human zone. The Park Service knows about these zones, but they will never admit it to the tax-paying general public. They continue to sell passes and encourage people to go into areas with a history of disappearances. They won't tell you that K9S refused to enter certain canyons or valleys in the deep backcountry. I am stating the facts, and the facts are terrifying for anyone who loves the outdoors. If you are going out there into the wild, you must understand that your tech can fail. You cannot rely on a glowing screen to lead you back to your family and your home. You need to know the analog ways of navigation that have served humanity for thousands of years. You need to be prepared for the exact moment the silence falls upon you. Let me teach you a simple trick that might save your life if the tech blackout hits. If your GPS dies and you are in the southern hemisphere, you can use your analog watch. Take off your analog watch and hold it flat in the palm of your steady hand. Point the 12 o'clock marker directly at the current position of the bright sun. The point halfway between the 12 and the hour hand will show you exactly where north is. It is a simple method that does not require a satellite or a lithium-ion battery to work. It cannot be sucked dry by a portal, and it cannot be jammed by electromagnetic fields. It is a physical truth that remains constant even when the world goes strange around you. But even with a compass and a map, you must remain hyper-vigilant of your natural surroundings. If the birds stop singing and the woods go dead silent, you need to act immediately. Do not wait for your GPS to flicker or for the mountain fog to roll in. Turn around and run back the way you came as fast as your legs can carry. The something else that lives in these thin spots is not something you ever want to encounter. It does not care about your experience or your expensive gear or your plans for the day. It operates on a level that we are only beginning to document through these tragic stories. The silence is the sound of the trap closing around you in the deep woods. I often think about Mark and the young man in Australia and what they saw last. Did they see a shimmer in the air or a ripple in the trees before they vanished? Did they realize their tech was failing because they were no longer on Earth, as we know? Their stories are a final warning to all of us who venture into the parks. I want you to remember the profile points every time you step onto a trailhead this year. Remember the granite and the water and the sudden changes in the mountain weather patterns. Remember that the authorities are not going to give you the full picture of the danger. You are responsible for your own safety in these ancient and mysterious mountain places. We are going to keep digging, and we are going to keep asking the questions they hate. Every case added to the missing 411 files brings us one step closer to the truth. It is a truth that many people find too disturbing to even consider in their lives. But the truth does not care if you are comfortable or if you believe it. The electronic blackout is just one piece of a much larger and more complex puzzle of disappearance. It is a smoking gun that proves we are dealing with an intelligent and powerful force. This force can suppress our most advanced signals and hide from our most sensitive sensors. We are being hunted in our own parks, and we are barely aware of it. I am David Paulides, and I want to thank you for listening to these facts today. Please share this video with anyone you know who spends time in the deep wilderness areas. Awareness is the first step towards survival when you are facing the truly unknown. Do not let your tech be the only thing standing between you and the void. Keep your eyes on the horizon and your ears open for the sound of the birds. If the silence comes for you, do not hesitate and do not look back at all. The woods are older than us, and they have secrets that are not meant for us. Stay safe out there because the cavalry might not be coming if your signal dies. We will be back soon with more cases and more analysis of the missing 411 phenomenon. There are thousands of stories yet to be told, and thousands of families waiting for answers. I will not stop until the light is shown on these dark corners of our world. Thank you for your support and for seeking the truth with me. One final warning before I go today for all the hikers out there listening now. If you find a piece of tech sitting on a rock in the woods, leave it. It might be the only thing left of a person who stepped through a door. And that door might still be open for the next person who walks by. Stay aware and stay alive. Goodbye.